So if I take two lines, they're at right angles to each other, and let's say that this line has gradient m1, and let's say this line has gradient m2. Then the relationship between these two gradients, because they are at right angles, is that m1 times by m2 is equal to -1. And that's for lines at right angles. And so since tangent and normal at right angles, we can use this relationship. We can calculate the gradient of the tangent and use this to find the gradient of the normal. Now let's have a look at that in practice. Let's take the curve y equals x plus 1 over x at the point where x equals 2. Let's ask ourselves, what's the equation of the tangent at the point where x equals 2, and what's the equation of the normal? So, first of all, let's establish what the point is. X equals 2, y equals 2 plus 1 over 2, which is 2.5. But thinking ahead, I think I would prefer to have that as an improper fraction, as 5 over 2. That's because I'm going to have to do some algebra with it later, and I'd rather keep it as 5 over 2 than keep it as 2.5. OK, next, we want the gradient at this point x equals 2. So let me just write down the equation of the curve, y equals x plus, and in order to differentiate, be ready to differentiate the 1 over x, I'm going to write it as x to the power -1. And now we can differentiate it. dy by dx is equal to, the derivative of x is 1, plus, and to differentiate this, we multiply by the -1, and we take 1 away from the -1 to give us a power of -2. So that's 1 plus, and a minus gives us a minus there. 1 over x to the -2 means 1 over x squared. X is equal to 2, and so my gradient dy by dx is equal to 1 minus 1 over 4. 2 squared is 4, and 1 take away a quarter leaves me with 3/4. So, we have got a point, 2, 5 over 2, and we've got a gradient of 3/4. And so we can find the equation of the tangent. So let's just list what we know. We've got the tangent at the point, and this is 2, 5 over 2, and we know that the gradient at that point is 3/4. So the standard equation for a straight line, y minus y1 over x minus x1 is equal to m, the gradient. And this is x1, and this is y1. So now we can substitute these things into here. Y minus 5 over 2 over x minus 2 is equal to 3/4. Let me multiply both sides by x minus 2. And then let's multiply both sides by this 4. And now if I multiply out the brackets that I've got, 4y, now 4 times by minus 5 over 2. 4 times by the 5 is 20, divided by the 2 is 10, and then the minus sign, minus 10, equals 3x minus 6. And it would be nice to be able to get all these numbers together. So I'm going to add 10 to each side, will give me 4y equals 3x plus 4. And so the equation of the curve is 4y equals 3x plus 4. And now we need to find the equation of the normal to the curve. Let's say that the gradient of the normal is m2 and that the gradient of the tangent is m1. And let's recall that normal and tangent are perpendicular. And the thing that we said about two lines that were perpendicular at right angles to each other was that if we multiplied their gradients together, the answer we got was minus 1. Now we do know what the value of m1 is. We do know the gradient of the tangent is 3/4. So if we put that into here, 3/4 times by m2 is equal to minus 1. So if we multiply up by the 4 and divide by the 3, we get m2 is equal to minus 4 over 3. And so now we know the gradient of the normal. We also know the point on the curve. That still hasn't changed. That's still the point 2, 5 over 2. So we now want the equation of the normal. Let's just write down what we know. We know the point, that's 2, 5 over 2, and we know the gradient, that's minus 4 over 3. So our standard equation for a straight line, y minus y1 over x minus x1, is equal to the gradient. And this is the point x1, y1. So now we substitute that in, y minus 5 over 2 over x minus 2 is equal to minus 4 over 3. Let's multiply up by x minus 2 and by 3. So we have 3 times y minus 5 over 2 is equal to minus 4 times x minus 2. Multiply out the brackets. 3y minus 15 over 2 is equal to minus 4x plus 8. Now let's get things together. It's awkward having this minus 4x here, so we'll add 4x to each side, and we'll add 15 over 2 to each side. So we'll have 3y plus 4x is equal to 8 plus 15 over 2. Now 8 is 16 over 2, so here I'll have 31 over 2. So we'll have 3y plus 4x is 31 over 2. And this 2 is an awkward thing, so let's multiply throughout by 2 in order to get rid of it. 6y plus 8x equals 31. And that's the equation of our normal.